Long-haul truckers of Reddit, what's the creepiest, scariest paranormal thing you've ever experienced while on the road? Story 1. Creepiest is seeing people walking along the shoulder of the highway when it's pitch black out and there hasn't been a town for miles and miles, and there isn't one coming up for miles either. Answer: Yep, I drove across Australia last year. Australia is about the same size as the US, minus Alaska, but with less than 10 of the population. This means that the country is just a handful of cities and towns separated by vast empty expanses of nothingness. Yet, every day of our drive, when we were a good hour or two driving from the next truck stop, there was always some guy on the side of the road walking along with a backpack that I hope had a lot of food, water, and a satellite phone in it. Story 2. I was driving through Kansas on I-70 at night once when I hit one of the craziest thunderstorms I've ever seen. It was so bad the road started flooding a bit and I had to pull into a service plaza and wait it out when the creepy part happened. As I was sitting in the truck watching the storm, there is a series of lightning strikes followed by a blackout. Suddenly, a massively bright light starts moving behind the clouds, too slowly to be an aircraft but too fast to be part of the storm system. It moves up over the hill trees before crossing directly overhead, then disappears a bit behind the service plaza. The transit from tree line to plaza took maybe 5 to 10 minutes tops, and while it was overhead, it cast everything in an eerie blue glow and lit up the parking lot. I seriously thought aliens were invading, or some shoot. Anyway, I shoot you, not within 10 minutes of the creepy light disappearing, the rain completely stopped, and the parking lot lights came back on, like someone flipped a switch. I got the fudge out of there while looking in my mirrors for spaceships or those alien walkers from War of the Worlds. If anyone has any thoughts on WTF, that might have been in all ears. The memory still bugs me, as I'm not prone to conspiracy theories or crazy outlandish beliefs or anything. I've considered stuff like ball lightning, refracted sunlight, it wasn't long after sunset, or even military aircraft. It was somewhat near an airbase. But none of those seem quite right for how massive the light behind the clouds was, how localized to a specific part of the sky it was, and the speed at which it moved. Answer: On a thread a while back, the topic was something like, what is something you absolutely believe but can't prove? I wholeheartedly believe that if we are being visited by aliens, it makes sense that they would use the cover of thunderstorms, blizzards, or hurricanes to move around because the majority of people would be inside seeking shelter so they wouldn't be spotted. Side note, I moved from CA to just outside of Kansas City a few years back, and those Midwest thunderstorms are no joke. They are also so much fun to watch. Story 3. Driving home from a trip one night, something told me to merge over, so I did. About a quarter mile later, there was a guy sitting in the middle of the lane I was just in, freaked me out like nothing else had. Story 4. Smashed fireflies on your windshield will leave a glowing splatter if you hit them after they light up. Story 5. I was once driving along I-15 in Idaho. There was a stray dog walking down the road. He stopped and sat and stared right at me as I approached. I got this feeling to pull over, so I did. He jumped right up into the cab and we rode out. I pulled in the nearest truck stop and he got out and wandered off. Sometimes I wonder if it was a ghost pup or if some trucker forgot his dog and the dog knew the best way to find him. Or perhaps the dog was simply hitchhiking. Feeling like I should pull over for a dog was definitely the weirdest I've ever felt. He did have a cute little bandana. The whole thing made me feel like I should get a trucker dog to keep me company on the road. But it's a rough lifestyle I wouldn't wish on anyone. Story 6. My uncle was a long-haul trucker. The night his father passed away, he was traveling from Ontario to Florida. He got the call from my mother and pulled into the next truck stop to process the news. There was a bar beside the stop, and the name of the bar was my grandfather's first and last name. He even took a picture and sent it to us. It was surreal. Story 7. I was driving cross-country once. Coming into Louisiana, it started getting spooky. Lots of cars on the side of the road near a swamp. Kind of felt the swamp calling to me. Wanted to pull over for some reason. Going about 60, I cross over a short bridge and there's a golden retriever puppy in a dog bed looking clean and not scared right on the side of the bridge. Freaked me the hell out, and am a dog lover but am not stopping there for a darn thing. Answer: lots of cars on the side of the road near a swamp ruffle. That's a Louisiana quirk. It's not scary once you know why they do that. The reason is that people drive out on the interstate into the middle of nowhere where the swamp meets the highway. They pull over, take out their fishing gear and their boat kayak, and then go out onto the swamp to fish and shoot. They aren't trying to kidnap or violation you, lol. They are just fishing and kayaking. I bet the dude who owned the dog let the dog sit on the side of the road while he was setting up the kayak or fishing gear under the bridge. Probably not the safest idea for the dog, but it's Louisiana, so... Story 8. Not a long-haul trucker, but I was crossing the Navajo Nation on my way to Colorado in the 90s. It was around 1 a.m., and I was really tired, so I pulled over between Gallup and Shiprock. Had a nightmare of evil-looking faces coming at me out of pitch black, screaming. I woke up, started my car, and when I turned on my headlights, there was a coyote and a jackrabbit sitting about 10 feet apart just on the edge of the light. Never had a nightmare like that before or since. Have traveled that route a few times but never stopped after dark again. Answer: my friend was driving through Oklahoma at night with a friend. I forget exactly where, but they said they felt a bunch of crazy shoot chasing them, and it was the scariest thing they had experienced. Apparently it was along the Trail of Tears. Is that a thing? I know the Trail of Tears was a thing, but don't know if there's a highway along intersecting it, and if it's known to be haunted. Story 9. I used to work with an ex-trucker who once had a woman commit tragic end by jumping in front of his truck. He hasn't driven since, and now spends his time working with troubled tragic end people. He was never quite the same after that happened. Edit. She had left a tragic end note in her house. She had a history of depression. The family didn't want to sue or anything. They said they felt terrible for him that she chose to go that way and didn't want to put him through anymore. They actually said they were glad she was no longer in pain. Story 10. I was driving at night on California HWI 168 near Mono Hot Springs when I saw a deer on its hind legs on the side of the road. Its eyes glowed in my headlights. I nearly shoot my pants. Story 11. I was driving through the back roads of Arkansas around 3 a.m. Suddenly, I hit a dense fog bank. It was so thick that I knew I should have pulled off the road because I could barely see in front of me, but sometimes pulling over can be just as dangerous. So I slowed to about 20 minutes and put my hazards on. I see no other cars coming from the other way or behind me. After about 15 minutes, I start seeing humanoid shadows illuminated by my headlights darting around the sides of the road and across it. It made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I saw maybe 5 or 6 of them. Never got a good look. All I saw was shadows darting back and forth, but we definitely human-shaped. Needless to say, I was freaked out and wanted to get away. I speed up a bit, and after about 5 minutes, I came out of the fog bank. It ended just as suddenly as it came. I speed away at my allotted 65 mph and didn't stop till the sun came up. Story 12. I was a touring musician for about 10 years, so I spent a lot of time on the road. Typically, we were driving through the middle of the night, but occasionally had travel days where we made our way throughout the day. typically show to show being more than 10 hours apart. I have seen many accidents of varying degrees of injury, but one still sticks out to me more than others. We had just finished playing SXSW in Austin, Texas, and we were making our way to LA to start a tour the next day. Since we were in the same city for a week, we were all pretty well rested, which meant everyone was awake and full of energy. We were having a fun conversation when we crested the top of a hill from which we could see traffic was completely clear on the other side of the highway, but about half a mile down it looked like 4 lanes completely backed up and no one was moving. We were joking about what might be holding up traffic when we approached the accident. There was a GMC Envoy, the very same car I owned at the time, that appeared to have rolled maybe 5 or 6 times, that had landed perfectly balanced on the cement median between the highways. All of the windows were gone, including the windshield. About 20 feet from the car, I saw the body of a woman and the body of a child, both of them very obviously dead. Everyone was completely silent for the next hour or so, until we pulled over and decided to take a break. Not because we physically needed one, but I think everyone needed to quit thinking about it. Answer: I worked for a TV station back in the early 2000s. I traveled with some of the reporters to calls to do still photography for web and assist the reporter photog team if needed. I was basically an on-site producer. We normally didn't cover traffic too much, but one of the main arteries out of the county was completely closed due to an accident. So we spent like 30 minutes going down dirt roads and backcountry lanes to get around it and to the site to cover why half the county was basically locked down. Only a few bridges. I get there, and Old Lincoln had run a stop sign, resulting in it getting T-boned by a massive dump truck. When we go there, EMT, fire, and police were on the scene, but no one was moving fast at all. No rush to clear the scene or anything. That means fatality and possible criminal investigation. I start shooting scenes of the traffic, a few tasteful wide shots showing the wall of traffic stretching out as far as the eye can see, etc. But for records, I also shot a shot of the dump truck and car, so that when they write the story, they can get the details correct, not something for the public. The reporter shoots her piece. We get statements from the cops on scene and go on to the next story. I get back to the station and start processing my photos when I see something in the back window of the car. Zoom in. It's the woman's face twisted and broken, mouth open in what looks like a scream. That face has haunted me for the rest of my life. I've done stories about killers. I've done a story where a bus full of high school kids fell 30 feet off an overpass, eliminate 4 of them, even saw them screaming coming out of the wreckage. Nothing comes close to that woman's face. Story 13. It blows my mind how many people are driving on the highway at 2 in the morning without headlights when it's pitch black. Answer: I did this once. I pulled into a gas station, turned my lights off, and just sat in my running car for a while. I'd had an argument with someone and driven away to cool off. When I was ready to leave, since my car was already running, I just forgot to turn the lights on, which I normally do immediately after turning the key. I only made it like a quarter mile before another car honked and flashed their lights at me frantically, and I realized what I'd done. But if it had been later or more deserted, I'm not sure when I would have realized my mistake. Story 14. Not a trucker, but I remember seeing a TV show or something where this trucker said in the 80s or 90s, I can't remember, he pulled off in a rest stop in a southern state at like 3 a.m. He said truckers stick together like a family, especially if one needs help with their gear truck. They help each other out whenever they can. Anyways, he said he's getting ready to sleep, and some guy starts knocking on his truck door, so he rolls the window down, and this guy says he's a trucker that is having some engine problems and was able to park his truck way down at the other end of the lot. This guy at his doctor then asks if he can come help have a look at his truck. The trucker on the show said he thought it was odd because truckers usually just call their 247 roadside mechanic service that will try to fix your truck wherever you are, and if they can't, a new semi will pick up your load and your truck will be towed to the nearest diesel repair shop, X200B. He said that was the first red flag. He told the guy at his door, "Sure, I have to get some things and I'll meet you over there, so just start walking back," basically to get the guy to get lost. The guy at his door says, "Okay, thanks," and disappears down the lot. The trucker on the show said he then realized he was the only truck in the entire lot and that this guy wasn't a trucker, so he turned on his rig and hauled jerk out of there. He then notified other truckers in the area to avoid that stop and gave a description of the guy. I don't think the guy was ever caught, but his intentions were obviously bad, and apparently this was a common thing at the time. Basically psychos making shoot up at truck stops to take advantage of unknowing truckers just trying to have a rest. X200B, outside of that, I think it's pretty basic. Knowledge that rest stops are shady as hell. To begin with though, lol. Answer: had my first scary rest stop adventure 2 weeks ago. Girlfriend and I are driving back to Los Angeles from AZ and stop at 1 on the 10E just after Coachella Valley. It's about 2 a.m., but I really have to pee, and she does too. As we pull in, there's a good amount of trucks on their side and cars on our side, but I don't see any people. It's got a real creepy vibe, and my girlfriend decides she can wait to pee. So I head to the bathroom while she stays in the car with the doors locked. In the bathroom is a barefoot, very dirty man sitting on the floor under the sinks, watching videos on his phone. Okay, weird, but I live in Hollywood, so I just avoid eye contact, do my business, and leave. GF decides she does need to go, so I walk her to the bathroom and wait outside. Still no human activity in the rest stop. We get back to my little Subaru and grab some snacks from the trunk and get in the car. The doors are locked and the engine is on, but we are sitting there for a minute or two, preparing to go when I catch a glimpse of headlights in my mirror. An old 70s massive sedan is slowly passing behind us, and I can see it's filled with 4 to 5 men. Their windows are down, and they pull into the spot immediately next to us. Mind you, I parked nowhere near any other cars, but they pulled up right beside us. Before they came to a stop, my spidey senses tingled, and I jammed my car into reverse and flew backwards as I heard their driving yelling, "Hey, hey, hey," to get our attention. And then they put their car into reverse to back up in front of me and block me from leaving. But thankfully I'm driving a new Subaru versus their old clunky sedan from the 70s, and without taking an extra beat, I floor it and swerve to avoid them while they back up. We booked it out of the stop, and I did a good 90 on the 10 for a few miles. I can't say for sure what would have happened if we stayed, but I don't think they were asking for directions. Story 15. Not my story and not paranormal, but really scary. A family friend got into an accident with a pickup truck full of tipsy teenagers. Neither he nor the kids inside could open the doors, so he watched them all burn alive. He had nightmares about it for years. He owns his own trucking business now too. Pretty amazing to me that he still stuck to it. I would have changed jobs, at least. Answer: my dad's a trucker logger. I remember when I was about 12, he came home early covered in blood and did not talk to anyone. He looked horrible. Later that day, my stepmom told me this. It was early that morning and foggy when he heard someone screaming on the CB about an accident up ahead going the opposite direction. When he came upon the scene, he saw this: a woman and her kids in a station wagon that had broken down. The first trucker saw it and stopped to help. He was standing between his semi and the station wagon. When trucker 2 came along and could not see, he had drifted off the road. He slammed into truck 1, pinning the truck driver 1 between his own semi and the station wagon. My dad came along within seconds. He ran across the highway and saw the carnage in front of him. The woman and the kids screaming, and the truck driver, one alive but pretty much cut in half, and truck driver 2 almost having a heart attack and in severe shock. Dad held truck driver one hand until he passed. Story 16. Ex-long-haul trucker here. I wasn't on the road for very long collectively. I don't have any Ghost Route 66 stories or anything like that. But I do recall one night in particular. Basically, I was driving through Montana headed east, and my company had miscalculated my mileage, so I requested an emergency fuel up. I got a response with the nearest gas station that I could get approved at. It wasn't exactly close, so I turn off the main highway and head toward my stop. It's pitch black. There's no moon, no city light, and I haven't seen any headlights for about an hour. I'm cruising down the highway, and I see something in the middle of the road at the furthest extent of my headlights, so I slow down, naturally, as I approach it. When I come to pass it, I get one good glance at it and slam on my brakes as I pass right in the middle of the highway. All I could think was, what the fudge did I just see? So I back up looking in my mirror until I see its red silhouette in my brake lights. I pull my brakes, put on my jacket and grab my flashlight and hop out. I walk to the back of my trailer and put my light on it, and there it was. A headless, skinless, mangled corpse. I froze and my jaw dropped. I didn't know what I was looking at. I just stood there, in the middle of the highway, in the cold, stagnant air. The only sound is the hum of my truck 50 feet back, watching the steam rise from this pile of meat. There was no fur, there was no clothing, just a fully intact ribcage with a mess of other miscellaneous bones attached by ligaments. I debated calling the police, as the ribcage looked big enough for someone my size, but I looked at my phone and had 0 cell service. The nearest town was about 50 miles out. When I put my phone away, I flashed my light around and, standing at the end of the road, were a handful of coyotes staring at me. Then they started coming through the fence and trotting my direction. I figured this is the part where I get back in the truck before I get into a situation, so I did, and continued on my way. I still to this day do not know if it was human or not. Whatever it was, and whatever had happened, I was almost a witness of. I convinced myself that it was more than likely a deer and was hit by another truck like my own at highway speeds that would definitely do significant damage. But in retrospect, I've never seen roadkill. Missing its flesh before. So yeah. Paranormal? Not at all. Creepy? Fucking A. TLDR. Found a skinless corpse in the middle of the night on the highway. Story 17. Apparently, there's a bunch of truckers suspected of being serial killers all along the I-95 corridor. Explain yourselves. Answer. If I had to drive I-95 day in and day out for my job, I'd probably become a serial killer too. My new pet peeve after I drove back to RI from ME a few weeks back are idiots who haven't figured out how to use their new SUV's lights, so they only have the running lights on, and you can't see them from behind at all. Oh, and those new GMC trucks which apparently have stock lights that are not seated properly, or are just way too bright, which blind you if you look in the mirror for more than 3 seconds. Story 18. Not paranormal, but creepy. Way back in the day, I was on a trip to Marquette, MI, in a 1-ton truck, hauling a 20-foot enclosed trailer. It was about 2 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon. My route had a few pickups from the lower half of the state that needed to go north. I was heading towards Grayling when I noticed the light outside was, for any lack of a better word, odd. It gave me one of those gut feelings that tells you something is wrong. I pulled off at the next service station to investigate further. Found that the sky that had been overcast all day had an almost perfectly round giant hole tunnel in it. Check out fall streak holes or punch clouds for an idea of what I saw. That giant hole looked like it went up for 15,000 feet to clear blue skies. The odd light was from the green-orange light and dark storm clouds that made the outer ring of the hole. Looked like other weather was coming in, but the forecast had called for only regular rain earlier. I don't ignore gut feelings, so I quickly checked into a dive motel and parked my truck against the building to shield it from the current wind direction. About 15 minutes later, a fudge tornado and other crazy weather blew through just a bit. North. Later found out from CB traffic that several trucks were blown off the road. I did some figuring and would have likely been in its path when the weather went through. As I made my way north the next day, and it was weird seeing the downed trees from me